Well, when I say like, it's over, we're getting a divorce, it's done, he grabs me by my hair, okay? And he shoves me on the ground. Like he like lunges at me, like gets out of the truck and I am on the floor and he puts his foot on my back and then he like leans down to where my ear is. And he says, I could effing unalive you, you B-word. And he's trying to get to me, but I am like trapped over here, like the pantry, me, the door. He can't get to me. And so he is on this side of the door and he's beating me with the door, just taking the door, bam, bam, bam.
Pull up on your thought, she gone, I'ma call it girl still. Then she gave me top and I ain't call it girl still. But I'm still.
So I promised that once the criminal case was over that I would give a story time on what happened between me and my ex-husband. So here we go. So my ex-husband and I met in Narcotics Anonymous in 2020. He had seen me previously in like 2018 in some meetings, but we had never spoken. He relapsed and came back to the rooms in 2020 and he started coming to my home group and we met and I 13th stepped him, which is a big no-no in NA, but I thought because he had time under his belt before and he relapsed that it was okay to talk to him because he wasn't like technically a newcomer. Well, that was a huge fucking mistake. So we started dating in April and what happened in April of 2020, COVID happened, right? And so he was at a treatment center and he wasn't able to just hang out with me because everybody was locked down. So he would have to lie and say that he was working overtime and he would sneak over to my house and stuff. And so the relationship kind of happened a lot faster than it normally would because of lockdown. We didn't know when we were going to be able to see each other next. And so things just kind of like progressed pretty fast, right? Well, I was also in the process of buying my own home. And so I was going around looking at houses and stuff. Anyways, I find a house and I'm like, okay, this is the one I want. And I buy it in May of 2020, right? Well, I don't know why I thought this was a good idea, but in June, he was like, hey, I can't stand living at this treatment center and being locked up. This is not what I signed up for. Like, yes, I knew I was going to be in treatment, but I didn't know there was going to be a global pandemic and the world was going to shut down. He had a son that lived with his parents he wasn't able to see, and he wasn't cool with that. He never got to spend time with me. And so he was like, I want to leave and move in with you. He did live in his own apartment in between because I wasn't ready to have him live with my kids yet, but that was for like a month or two. And by August of 2020, he was living with me. He moves in August and things are great. I'm super happy that I don't have to pay this mortgage by myself when this man is going to help me. I'm also super happy I don't have to take the trash out or fix anything. And I'm like, yeah, this is great, right? His son lived with his parents and he only had a couple of months under his belt in recovery at this time. And he had been a chronic relapser. And so they weren't like, yeah, here's your baby, but they would let him come and stay with us on weekends and stuff. And so we were really like starting to blend our families together and like raise each other's children. And it was just like a really wonderful thing, you know? For a long time, we were super happy and I did not see any red flags that he was dangerous or anything. And I actually asked him when we first started dating what all he had been arrested before. And he told me like shoplifting and like marijuana possession and a DUI, but nothing about like physical violence, right? Well, my ex-boyfriend reached out to his baby mama and was like, our exes are talking. And she said, he's the one who used to beat my, so that's on her. And he screenshotted it and sent it to me. And he was like, hey, I just want you to know, like, so you can be safe. I'm not trying to like swoop in or anything, but this girl said that he used to beat on her. And so I Google him and I find a newspaper article that says that he tried to unalive his baby mama at her job in broad daylight in front of God and everybody. And then the police got called and then he tried to fight the police and was arrested at the gas station. And so I screenshot this newspaper article and I send it to him and I'm like, oh, you wasn't gonna tell me about this? And he says, who sent you that? Like, I'm not capable of like doing a simple Google search on my own, right? And so I'm like, well, nobody sent it to me. I Googled you. I asked you what you've been arrested for. You didn't mention this. That kind of seems like lying. Why would you not just tell me the truth? You know, whatever. So anyways, he goes on this big tangent about how she cheated on him while she was pregnant, and the guy she cheated had told him, and he was in a rage and all this stuff and blah, 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 blah. And he basically made it sound like the girl was being promiscuous and he had lost his temper, and that it was an isolated incident that had never happened before that or after that, which is not true. Okay. First of all, I don't find that out for 4 years though. I'm thinking, okay, it was his baby mama's fault, not his. He's a nice guy, right? Things go on for August, September, boom, we hit October, and Halloween was the first time that I noticed like, this guy is a little off mentally, right? Like something is not totally right, because he just like got mad as hell at my little boy for no reason and freaked out and started just like screaming and going crazy. And I was like, bro, he's 3 years old. What the hell is wrong with you? Why are you acting like that? You know what I'm saying? And he just started cussing, calling me everything but a child of God that could do with being promiscuous, making fun of me for having kids, and some just like all of these bad things, calling me a broke ass bitch, saying I couldn't afford the house without him, just all of this terrible things, okay? And I'm like, damn, where is this coming from, you know? So he, the next day, apologizes, I'm so sorry, yada, 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 whatever, you know? And I'm like, well, I already introduced this man to my children. He already lives in this house. I've gotten comfortable having him help me pay the bills and stuff, so I don't want that money to go away. It's the first fight we've ever gotten into, and we've been dating for like 6 months. And yes, it was very heated, and he acted a whole crazy person, but I wanted to be able to keep my home and to keep this white picket fence life that I had. And so I just told myself, well, it was good for 6 months, that maybe this is just a one-time thing. It was not. It was not a one-time thing. Then the holidays come, right? When we do Thanksgiving and stuff, and his little boy was with his mama for Thanksgiving. So we, you know, he wasn't with us or whatever. We do Christmas and stuff when we got his son for Christmas. And like, I started to notice that things were off, right? Like something was not right. And I found out that he had been drinking behind my back, okay? He had been buying Kratom at the gas station. He had been drinking on his way home from work. And then eventually he would completely relapse on his DOC, which is something that Appalachian people like to do, and then work on cars. If you know, you know. So he's doing that, right? Now keep in mind, at this point, I have over 2 years in recovery, okay? I broke up with my previous ex because he relapsed on the same DOC. I loved this guy though. I really loved this guy, and I was so tired of my relationships not working. At this point, I've got 3 children with 3 different men. I was engaged to somebody. They relapsed. It was over. This is my second relationship in recovery, and I'm just like ready to be clean and to be a wife and to be a mother and to settle down. And I'm just like, bro, can you just like get it together so that we can finally fucking do this, right? And so a friend of mine was working at a treatment center, and she comes over, and we like, me and this girl and his mom like hijack him and make him go to treatment, right? And so he was in treatment until like February of 2021. In February of 2021, my grandmother gave him a wedding ring to propose to me. And she said, I'm not like telling you that you need to propose to Tori, but in case you want to, I want you to have this. And he proposed to me because he was no longer living at a house. He was living in a residential treatment facility. And he was like, I want us to be engaged because I don't want us to break up, right? And so we were engaged. And I actually was like, this dude is office rocker. I don't want to get pregnant by this guy. I need to go and get put on birth control. And I went to go and have an IUD placed, and they told me I was 4 days pregnant. Yeah. Never forget finding out that I was pregnant whenever I went to go and get a freaking IUD put in me. I called my boss and just bawled my eyes out to her in the bathroom. So now I'm pregnant with my fourth kid by the fourth guy. Literally like purposefully trying to get birth control because he is not doing well mentally and I don't want to have a baby with him and find out that I'm pregnant. So, but I felt like, okay, I am clean. I am engaged. I am an adult. I'm going to do this right. I'm not going to do what I've done in all my previous situations with my children and their dads. I'm going to get married. We're going to, we already own a house. Like, we're going to do this the right way. And that was the biggest mistake of my life. So where we left off, I had just found out that I was pregnant when I was trying to get an IUD placed, right? And so, excuse me, I'm doing my laundry. So I call him and he's at the treatment center and I tell him like, yo, I'm pregnant, right? And so we decide that we're going to speed up our engagement and go ahead and get married before it's super obvious that I'm pregnant. Now, everybody that knew us knew I was pregnant, but they also knew that we had actually gotten engaged prior to finding out that I was pregnant. So it wasn't like a shotgun wedding or anything. Everybody in my family wanted me to get married because, like I had said, I had 3 children with 3 different guys, didn't marry any of them. This guy had a child with another woman that he didn't marry. And so I think both of our families were like, y'all need to just do this right and do it the right way, And so that's what we did. And thankfully, right, like so much of our family wanted us to get married that they paid for everything pretty much. My grandmother paid for the dress. His parents paid for the venue. My dad made all the food, and we got married May 22nd of 2021. I'm sorry, 5/22. Yeah, we got married May 22nd of 2021. So I started dating this man April 25th of 2020 and I married him May 22nd of 2021. So literally within 13 months, I married this man and had a baby with him. That is not enough time to know somebody well enough to marry them. If you don't watch any of my other videos after this, because there's a lot of story left, please listen to me when I say 13 months is not enough time. It's not enough time. A guy can pretend to be somebody totally freaking different. It's just very easy to hide who you are for that amount of time, okay? He did a really great job hiding who he was up until that point. He did have a relapse, but he wasn't like angry or anything whenever he did it. And we had that one fight in October, and that's it. Other than that, we had no problems whatsoever. So I'm thinking that, like, yeah, I'm marrying a guy who struggles with addiction, but he's a nice guy that's good to me and really loves me. That's what I thought. Oh, I'm pregnant and my pregnancy is going great and I'm married. Everything is going fine. My career is going well. Everything is good at this point in time. He did something that was my first indicator that he was extremely selfish, like borderline narcissistic selfish, right? And it was that he went back to school. And I'm all for people going back to school, don't get me wrong. But the thing that really upset me about this was April of 2021, his son came to live with us, right? His parents felt like us having a new baby, me having custody of all of my kids, it would be very odd for him to be married and have a family and stuff and not have his son, right? And they didn't want his son to feel like abandoned or like his dad didn't want him. So they gave him to us and let him come and move in with us. So his son comes and lives with us. So now we got 4 kids and I'm pregnant, right? He gets promoted at his job and he's working night shift, okay? So at nighttime, I'm at the house completely alone, right? He is working at night when I'm sleeping. He's sleeping during the day whenever I'm working. We are only seeing each other like in passing sometimes and on weekends and stuff. And so who does all the parenting responsibility fall on for not just my children, but his child as well? Me, right? Me. It all falls on me and I become like a single parent, okay? So I'm fine because I know like this is something that happens to a lot of people in recovery. They have to take like not so ideal jobs so they can move up in the career world because they're years behind. And so I understood that and I was totally fine, ready to be like a supportive wife or whatever. And then he comes to me and he says, hey, I think that I'm going to go back to school for supply chain management. And I was like, right now, when we have 4 children that are 11, 6,
and two 4-year-old boys. His son and my son were both 4 years old at the time. I was like, this is really what you think it's best for us to do right now? And I am like very heavily pregnant with baby number 5. Like, you really think that's what we need to do right now? And I expressed to him, like, I feel like a single parent. I don't think I can do this by myself. And he did it anyways and went to school. Okay. So on top of us working separate shifts, me taking care of the kids all by myself, he is now enrolled in college. So all of my pregnancies with my other children had been really great pregnancies. I didn't have any problems, no complications. Babies came out like nobody's business, right? Well, I thought with this baby it would be the same. And we're going to see my doctor. We find out we're having a little boy. We decide to name him Walker. Everything is going wonderful. And then right around the summertime, I started to have like really bad pains in my stomach down here, but like where my kidneys are and stuff, right? And I ended up passing a kidney stone in the middle of the night one night and going to the emergency room. And I called him and I'm like, this doesn't feel normal, like something is wrong. And I could just tell that like I was having some complications. I had been pregnant many times before and I had never had any issues like what I was experiencing. And I'm telling him that. And I'm telling my doctor that too. And my doctor just did not want to hear it. He was literally like, all your other kids were fine. There's nothing different about this. Like, and basically told me to shut the hell up, right? Little did everybody know that I had severe preeclampsia and they were totally ignoring a bunch of my symptoms because of my previous healthy pregnancies. Like I had 500 milligrams of protein in my urine and they're like, oh, it's from the kidney stone. It's not from the kidney stone, dude. It's because like I'm like dying from freaking preeclampsia right now. So I end up having a preeclamptic stroke while I'm at work. And the ladies around me, they drive me home and he ends up taking me to the hospital. And you could tell throughout our entire relationship that he had always felt that I was a dramatic person and that I was embellishing. If I was sick, I wasn't actually as sick as I was acting. And so he thought that I was like making up my pregnancy symptoms and that nothing was wrong with me. And he dropped me off at the hospital so that he could go home and watch the football game. Go Dogs. I get to the hospital and immediately they recognize that I have preeclampsia and they take me to the back and they admit me and I am admitted to the hospital for 8 days. When I call him and let him know, hey, I'm really sick, they admitted me, I'm not coming home. Instead of like being like, okay, I'll head up there, he starts like getting pissed that he has to take care of the kids by himself and freaking out about what am I going to do? How am I going to get to work? How am I going to get to class? And blah, 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 blah. And I'm sorry, but like for me, how I am in a relationship, if my partner is sick, we're going to the hospital. I will call a family member to watch the kids. Like, I'll figure it out. I damn sure am not going to work. I'm not going anywhere. Like, I'm going to be by your side no matter what, because my mom passed away when she was only 40. And so, like, I just take being sick very freaking seriously, especially the type of sick where you're in a hospital. You know what I mean? And so I was really deeply disappointed by his reaction. And that was another sign that let me know, like, something is wrong here. This is my husband. I'm pregnant with his child in sickness and in health. I'm in the hospital alone. And then because it was only 2021 and so like COVID policies were still in place, I was only allowed to have one visitor at the hospital. So I picked him, obviously, the father of my child. So my dad couldn't come up to the hospital, my brother, my girlfriends, nobody could come and sit with me. And I was in like completely alone. And it was so embarrassing. The nurses would be like, it says you're married. Where's your husband? Why are you here by myself? And I had to lie and say, oh, it's because he's at home with the kids, or it's because it wasn't. His mom had driven down and was staying at our house and was taking care of all of the kids for us. He didn't have to take care of the kids. He could have easily been there with me. He chose not to come up there. He came up there one time and it was to bring me some food that was not hospital food. And he stayed for maybe an hour. So finally, they get me stabilized and they send me home on intensive bed rest. And they tell me and him she is not to get out of bed to do anything but pee. And this pissed him off because I did everything. I waited on him hand and foot. And he knew the roles were about to be reversed and he was about to have to do a lot more than what he was doing. And he did not want to do that. And it was maybe the second or third day and I had asked him to make me something to eat. And he literally got so mad and he screamed screamed at me and he said, God, I wish you just stayed at the fucking hospital. And that's when I really realized, like, I fucked up marrying this guy. Like, this guy is a monster. He does not like me. And I am trapped, and I'm about to give birth to his baby, and I'm married to him.
So, where did I leave off? Oh, I left off at, he was like, I wish you just wanted to stay at the hospital. No. Asshole. Anyway, so, I have to go back to the hospital like every 2 days to get checked out, right? And I'm going back, and it's like September 11th or 12th or something, and they tell me, we think you need to go ahead and give birth, right? And so I end up getting induced and having my baby early, about 2 months early, actually on my other son's birthday. So both my boys have the same birthday. And he almost missed the birth because he wouldn't stay up at the hospital with me. I call him and I'm like, hey, we're having the baby like right now. And he thought I was going to like give birth and it was going to be a couple of hours. And I was like, no, a C-section, you got to get here now or you won't be here. So he gets there by like the skin of his teeth and he's getting scrubbed up and stuff. And they do the C-section. They take the baby out. I'm awake for the whole thing. It was very traumatic and scary and bloody and gross and terrible. After the baby is taken out of my body, I start to feel something coming out of me down there. All three of my previous children have been a vaginal birth. And so I'm like, I don't know if it's normal, but it doesn't feel like this is what's supposed to be happening. And I think I'm hemorrhaging and one of my organs is falling out of my body, okay? That's what I think is happening. And I start freaking out and screaming and crying and grabbing the bed rails and like trying to go like this. And he is like, what are you doing? Press the nurse button. I'm screaming like, get somebody in here, help me. He's like, you have a nurse button on your bed. Bro, if one of your organs was falling out of your butt, do you think you would have the fucking like frame of mind to be like, let me call the nurse? No, you would ask your spouse to take care of it. Just reach over me and press the button, dude, or get up and go and get the lady. Like, don't make me feel stupid in the most vulnerable moment of my life, you know? And so I call the lady who comes in there. She like weighs it because it's so big. It's the size of a football. And it was like 3.5 liters worth of blood that had come out of me. It was a blood clot. And I'm not even joking. It was like this big, okay? And of course, right, this guy acts like I'm just being dramatic. And it's a no big deal. So our son, very premature, goes to the NICU, right? He was like 2 months early and stuff. And so I've never had a baby that was born early. I've never left the hospital without my child. I didn't know what to expect. I was very grief-stricken, and that was the closest that I've ever come to relapsing on my journey in recovery. It was very difficult. I isolated a lot. I didn't go to meetings because I was so afraid that I was going to get COVID and take it into the NICU that I just stayed at home and cried. All my baby's dirty clothes that they would give me, I would bring them home and I would put them on like little teddy bears and stuff or on pillows, and I would like sleep with them and hold them and smell them and stuff because I was just so devastated that I didn't get to bring my baby home. And I was like so afraid that he was not going to make it, you know. He weighed 3 pounds. He had to be on oxygen. Like, he was not doing well, you know. And he actually ended up making a full recovery, and today is supposed to be like 6 foot tall when he gets older. I mean, you would never know looking at him that he was that small whenever he was born. My son is born. He comes home. We now are living in a 3-bedroom house with 5 children. My recovery birthday is in October, but I decided to wait to have my celebration because my son hadn't come home yet. I didn't want to take a sickness back to the NICU. By the time he came home, I was just so worried about him getting sick that I really didn't go anywhere or do anything. And I didn't really feel comfortable having my recovery celebration until February of 2022. Let's put a pin in that. In between September when my son was born and February whenever I had my recovery celebration, I was like, yo, our house is full. So I had bought that house as a single mom of 3 children, right? And then this man had moved in with me, and then his son had moved in with us, right? And that was already kind of pushing it, having 5 people living in a 3-bedroom house. It was the 2 of us in 1 room, and then my daughter, and then my son and my daughter in the other room. So
basically to give you a breakdown of how it is, my oldest daughter is 5 years older, and then my two middle children are 13 months apart. So I put the kids who are 13 months apart in the same room together, and I gave my older daughter her own room. Well, when my husband's son came to live with us, we had both the boys in the room and both the girls in the room. Well, then the baby comes home from the NICU, and he's in there with us, and I'm like, damn, it's a lot of people in here, and we got to get a bigger house, right? So we were looking, I got a great deal on my house since I bought it during COVID. I paid $180,000 for it, and I got a 2% interest rate. Like, there was nothing like that out there anymore. Just rates were not like that anymore. And so we were like, maybe it would be a smarter financial choice to refinance our mortgage and get enough money to build out the garage. And that way we don't have to start all over. Like, you know what I mean? We don't have to move. We don't have to like get a $3,000 a month mortgage, because at the time our mortgage was only $1,100 a month. It was so cheap. And so we decided to do that. So I refinanced my home and put his name on it. My home that is a premarital asset that he had no ties to and was not his. I willingly allowed him to come in. If you have made it to this part of my video and you do not watch anything from this point forward, do not add that man to your effing mortgage, girl. Don't do it. Do not, unless it is absolutely necessary or you will be homeless, don't do it. You will regret it later, okay? So we refinance the house, we get all this money back, and we're thinking that we're going to enclose the garage, right?
Now, keep in mind, at this point in the story, I know what y'all are thinking. You're thinking, Tori, you said that you realized you effed up. Why did you add that dude to your mortgage? Well, that, my friends, is a great question. Why did I do that? I did that because I was in denial, right? I was in denial. I thought if I could just be the perfect wife and if I could fix every single thing that he was upset about, then he wouldn't have a reason to be upset or to be frustrated, and we would be happy. So he was always complaining about, oh, the house is so small, we don't have enough space, we're stacked on top of each other, I feel like I can't breathe. So I was like, okay, if I just give us some more space, right? Make the space situation better, then he'll be happy, and then we won't have to walk on eggshells anymore, and things will be okay. Keep in mind, at this point in the relationship, there's no physical violence. We've been in one fight up until this point, one singular argument, okay? Nothing else has happened, okay? And so I'm thinking, like, I'm married. I'm in it for the rest of my life, right? We have a medically fragile child who's on all of this, like, medication and has to have surgeries and go to CHOA and stuff. And so, like, I'm like, I don't want to do this by myself, you know? So I overlook a lot of the red flags, a lot of the things that, like, if we were just dating at this point, that I would have been like, oh, hell no. I am married. Okay, I'm married and we have a baby, so I feel stuck. So I'm like, yeah, let's get a joint bank account. Let's add you to my mortgage. Let's do all of this stuff because, like, I'm already in it, you know? Why not be all the way in? So I let him on my mortgage, and we start, like, trying to find people to do things that we need to have done to, like, build the house out, right? And we have a couple of people come by and give us quotes, and we didn't get enough money to do what we wanted to do. And so I'm like, okay, well, instead of having, like, just one contractor do it, let's piecemeal it out. Let's get, like, you know, let's shop around, right? We need to get a window so that it passes fire code. Well, let's start with that, and then we'll do the next thing and the next thing, and we'll go piece by piece, right? Doing it that way, all we ever ended up getting done was having a window installed. After that, we kept, like, getting quotes and stuff, but just never having the work done. And then eventually we were like, let's go on vacation and let's take the kids to Disney and let's do this and let's do that. And then all of a sudden, all the money's gone. We have no space, and our mortgage is more expensive, okay? All right, y'all, I gotta go pick up my kids and cook dinner and stuff, so this is gonna be my last clip for today, but this is gonna be the most juiciest one, so After we get the money for the refinance, the only thing we end up having done is having a window put into the house, and then we keep like getting quotes and stuff like that. And for some reason, we just never pull the trigger on any of it. And slowly we start to spend the refinance money on other stuff, like paying off credit card debt, taking vacations and trips and stuff like that. I got a boob job. He bought a new truck. We totally mismanaged the money and ended up not fixing the house up at all. Okay. Obviously, our mortgage is more expensive now and we don't have any more space. And so all of those issues that we were having, like, they're still happening. We're still walking on eggshells. He's still pissed off all the time. And now our bills are more expensive and all of the money is gone. So tensions are high, right? I finally had started going to meetings more often. Our son had started to like get on medication and stuff and get older and like get healthier and gain some weight and look more normal and everything. And so I felt more comfortable. I mean, my kids were already going to school and bringing home all kind of germs. So I was like, is it going to kill me or him, right, to go to a meeting? It's not. And so I finally started going back to meetings. And this is when I decided that I was going to have my 3-year celebration, like I had mentioned in one of my previous videos, right? So I have my 3-year celebration in February of 2022, even though my recovery date is in October, right? So my 3-year celebration, February 2022, okay? So keep in mind, at this point, we've been together almost 2 years and we've been married coming up on 1 year. Like we were about to celebrate our 1 year anniversary in like 2 or 3 months, okay? So, oh God, this is so hard to talk about. My mom had passed away whenever I was 20 and my aunt like kind of stepped in as like my kid's grandma. None of my children except for my oldest have ever met my mom, and anytime I need a babysitter, my aunt watches my kids. So I live right here, okay? My aunt lives about 30 minutes this way. My home group NA meeting is about 20 minutes away from my house, but in this direction, okay? And so I had asked my aunt to watch my kids for my celebration. So I needed to drive over here and drop my kids off and then drive over here to go to my meeting, which is not like a big deal, right? At least I have a babysitter, but like time-wise, I needed to be in a certain place at a certain time. So I'm like rushing, let's get out the door. And so it's me in the front seat, it's him in the passenger seat, and then I drive a minivan. And so it's his son in a captain's chair, and then our baby like right behind me, and then my 3 kids are in the back, and we're driving down the road. Now we live right next to a railroad track, and when I go to my aunt's house, I have to pass over the railroad tracks. There's a train, and we are sitting there, and it's just taking so long, and it's forever, and I'm like, damn, I'm gonna be stuck here forever. I'm gonna be late to the meeting. I'm already 6 months late having this celebration in the first place. I at least want to be there on time so I can like give my friends readings to do for me and stuff like that, you know? So I'm like stressing out, really, is the problem. And so I make a turn and I ask him to pull out his GPS and put my aunt's address in and tell me where to go. And he says, go that way. And he points. Now keep in mind, we have lived in this neighborhood for 2 years. So I'm thinking, well, he knows where to go. We've lived over here 2 years. Maybe he knows a way that I don't know. And so I just keep going straight. Well, he just never looks up and talks to me again, never says anything, doesn't pay attention to where we're going, nothing. And so I realized we're lost. And I drove 40 minutes in the opposite fucking direction, okay? I'm not anywhere near close to where I need to be. And so I start freaking out and I start panicking and I start getting upset, and we get into our second fight. So we start fussing with each other, and look, I'll be the first to admit I did not act like some pious, wonderful wife in this conversation. I was yelling at him because I was very upset. I felt like my celebration wasn't important to him. I felt like this thing that was a big deal to me didn't matter to him at all, and it obviously didn't. And so I was saying like, what the fuck is wrong with you, dude? I need to be here at this time at this place. You never help me. I have to do everything by myself. And just like all of these feelings of animosity and being upset started to come out, right? Well, what did he always say in every single fight that we ever got into? It doesn't fucking matter. You're just a slut who had a bunch of kids with a bunch of different guys. I can't believe I even married somebody like you anyways. It's embarrassing. You have all these kids and blah, 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 blah. Just always, you're a whore, you're a slut. You're a whore, you're a slut. You're a whore, you're a slut. Blah, 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 blah. Always that. Never call me ugly, never call me crazy, never call me a bitch. Like, just, you're a slut, you're a slut, you're a slut, right? And so we're arguing back and forth, and now this is petty spaghetti, okay? So I'm just gonna go ahead and say, before I say this, I know this was not a nice thing to say, okay? But I was just so pissed off. I was so stressed out. I was so frustrated. I was so mad. His first son, he is the third baby daddy, okay? His second son, he is the fourth baby daddy, okay? And so I looked at him and I said, you must have a type because you ain't nobody's first round draft pick, bud. Now I understand that was rude and disrespectful and uncalled for. However, what he goes on to do is not okay. I don't care what anybody says to you, it's not okay to do this. So I say that to him. Now keep in mind, I'm driving the car, right? I'm driving the car, he's in the passenger seat. He reaches up and grabs me by my hair like this and pulls my head to where I'm like looking at the ceiling, okay? So I can't see the road. And then he smashes my head back down like this on the steering wheel. Now my head didn't actually hit the steering wheel because I was like ripping my hair out of his hand, you know what I mean? And like moving away from him and stuff. And so, yeah, he physically assaulted me in front of all of our children while I was driving the vehicle that all of us were in and we all could have been unalived. So that was not great. And immediately I pull out the phone and I call the police, right? And I'm like, get the fuck out of my car, just screaming at him. I've got 911 on the phone, but I'm like so wrapped up in what's going on and stuff that I'm just like screaming and like, it was very, very chaotic. The kids are hollering, like it's really bad, right? And so, hate talking about this. I kick him out of my car and I kick him out on the side of the road. This is the most embarrassing thing I have ever done in my life, and I cannot believe that I'm about to admit this on the internet. But I sit there and I think if I show up to my celebration where all of my friends are at, my family is at with balloons and stuff, like everybody is there to support me and my husband is not there, they're gonna ask, where is your husband? Where is he at, girl? He ain't here. He's walking on the side of the road because he just beat me up in front of the kids. Can't say that, right? I don't want to say that. I don't want the marriage to be over. I love the guy. I like being married. I like being part of a 2-income household. I like not having to be a single mother. I like not having to raise my kids on my own. I love my stepson like he is my own child, right? All of these reasons are why I do what I go on to do. I hang up with 911. I tell all the kids to be quiet. I say everything is fine. It was my fault. I shouldn't have said that. And I drive next to him on the side of the road and beg him to get in my car. Yeah. So after he gets in my car, he's like, I'm not reading anything at your fucking celebration and all this stuff, which really upset me because the year prior, at my 2-year celebration, I'd asked him to do a reading and he was like, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. How do you live with me and you don't know anything nice to say about me? And like, that was just mind boggling. But I thought for sure at my 3-year, after we're married and had a baby together, you obviously would have something nice to say about me. He uses this as a way to not have to say anything to me. We go to the place. I pretend like everything is fine. I lie to all of my friends. My neck hurts so bad. Like my hair was like ripped out. Okay. And, I lie to everybody and pretend like everything is fine. And I don't tell a soul. All my best friends, my aunt, my family, everybody is at this place. She comes and picks my kids up there because I told her we were running late. I didn't tell her about what happened. And I just lie to everyone to protect him and pretend like everything is fine. And then instead of enjoying my celebration, I spend the entire time texting him, are you gonna move out? Are you gonna leave whenever we get home? You know, just like begging him to stay, not why did you hit me? Why did you do that? You need to pack your things and leave. It's unacceptable to put your hands on your wife. I am begging him to stay. Right? Now, again, this is the last part that I'm going to be able to do today. I hate to leave you guys hanging on a cliffhanger like this, but I have to go get my kids and cook dinner, and I don't like talking about this in front of them. So I will be back. I am going to have a separate video where I answer a bunch of questions that are in the comments. I want you guys to know that I am going to address those. So, but I want to get all the story done first. So part 5, we had our incident in the car where my hair was pulled and I dropped my kids off. I had my celebration, whatever. So I go to pick my kids up from my aunt's house, and I can tell by the look on my aunt's face that she knows that something's going on. And she tells me that my second child, my youngest daughter, told her what had happened. And so
I tell him, like, look, my family knows, people know what's going on. We're going to have to tell somebody something, like, what's going on with you? And I start asking him, like, why did you do that? And this is where he comes clean to me that he has been using anabolic steroids. Now, I know what you're thinking, Tori. You met him in treatment. He's already relapsed. He's hit you. And now you're telling us that he also does steroids. This surely is enough for you to leave. Well, you would be mistaken, my friend. You would be very, very mistaken. Because to me, this was an excuse for why he hit me, right? Oh, well, he actually loves me. He didn't mean to hit me. He did it because he was on steroids. He's a good guy. He is a good person. He just took something that made him do a bad thing, right? Totally effing delusional. Well, he was always like a gym guy. He was probably 6 foot tall, 225 pounds of just like solid muscle. And I thought it was from hard work. Turns out it's not. He was taking steroids and that's what was making him get big. But honestly, I didn't care about him taking steroids. I cared about how it made him act. I told him if he was capable of taking it and like staying normal, that it was fine with me. And at now, like who I am now, I would never be okay with that. But at the time, I just wanted so badly for the relationship to work that I was willing to accept whatever baggage he had to bring to the table because I loved him and I wanted to keep my family. And that is sad. But you also have to keep in mind that his son is not my child, but I'm raising him. He calls me mom, and I love him, and I know that if we separate, that I'm going to lose this child out of my life. Also, there's the financial stuff. I'm afraid that I'm not going to be able to afford the house without him, and so I look past a lot of things because I want to keep the life that I have, which was a huge freaking mistake. But anyways, so I tell him, I guess there's a bunch of different kinds of steroids, and the one that he was on was called Tren, which is apparently the worst one. They call it like Widowmaker or something. And so I'm like, look, dude, go back to the SARMs or switch to a different kind, but you can't take this anymore. And this is going to be an isolated incident due to the steroid use. And I chalk it up to he's not a bad guy. He's not a violent guy. He just took something that made him act this way, which is so stupid because I know about the newspaper article with the baby mama. I know about like, you know, him getting fucking loud with me and shit and calling me a whore and stuff, and that argument that we got in October and all this other stuff. You know what I mean? So I know like this is not normal. You know what I mean? But I want to keep my family. So I just am like, okay, whatever. Right. So now, simultaneously, while all this stuff is going on, I have decided that I'm going to start a business with one of my friends, right? And it actually takes off. We thought it was going to be like a little side hustle type of situation, but it ends up taking off, and we end up staying booked every single weekend for months at a time. And this actually helped the relationship get better because the only time that we were ever around each other was on the weekends. And so now we hardly see each other because I'm doing all of these side jobs. Also, I ended up making a bunch of extra money doing this. So that helped with like a lot of the issues that we were having from like money, refinancing and using the money and all that stuff. So things are good. And we coast for the rest of February, all of March. April is my birthday. It's my 30th birthday. He goes all out. He takes me on a trip to Asheville. We go to that really nice mansion or whatever, and we get an Airbnb and we go hiking and all this stuff, and we have like a really great time. And then in May, we take a family vacation to Waveland, Mississippi. Okay. This is where stuff gets really bad. So now, I can't really go into specifics about what happens while we're on this vacation in Mississippi because TikTok will take down my video. But I personally think that he left his steroids at home and that he had like a freak out from not taking them, and he lost his temper and he went crazy. And yeah, he did something really, really, really bad that I can't even act out, depict, or talk about on TikTok because it'll totally get removed. So while this is all happening, like I said, I don't think I had mentioned this, but I had started sponsoring a girl that I had not ever really talked to before, and we started getting super, super, super close, and I started feeling like I could tell her things, and I told her about what he did while we were on vacation, and this is the first time that I, like, opened up and talked to somebody about what was happening to me at my house. And this time was really bad. It was really bad. Yeah. But I stayed. I knew that I wanted to leave at this time, though. And so I started going to meetings a lot. I'm talking to my friends about how I want to get out. I am saying stuff like that. But deep down inside, I really just want him to change. Like, if he would change, I would stay for the rest of my life at this point. But I know that that's probably not going to happen. And so I'm talking to my friends about leaving. Well, at this time, I start going to a different meeting than the one that I normally go to. And I end up meeting a boy. We will call him N, right? And I'm married, obviously. I'm wearing a wedding ring, so he doesn't, like, approach me or anything or try to talk to me or anything inappropriate. But I am, like, starstruck, like, oh my God, this is the most beautiful person ever. I'm being abused at home. I'm being treated poorly. And, you know, now things are, like, progressively getting worse faster. Like, it took 2 years for things to happen, and then in February something happened, and then again in May something happened. So it's, like, picking up with the abuse, right? And so at this time, I'm, like, looking for a way out, but I'm too afraid to leave and be alone. And so I'm like, maybe I can leave with this guy, right? Huge mistake. Oh my God, huge mistake. And so I start, like, purposely going to meetings that I know this dude is going to be at, and, like, trying to insert myself everywhere that he is. And I start talking to my friends about how I'm feeling and stuff and everything. And then I start to feel this, like, twinge of guilt, right? Like, hey, you're married and you have a crush on somebody else. Like, this is not okay. And so what do? The dumbest thing that I could ever possibly do. I try to talk to my husband about it. And now keep in mind, I have not kissed this man. I haven't held hands with this man. I haven't exchanged phone numbers with this man. Like, this is just simply a crush at this point. I am watching this guy. I think he is attractive, and that's it. Like, that's it. We are friends on Facebook, and we see each other around at meetings, and we'll be like, hey, that's it. And I tell him, hey, I have started to notice other men. I used to not notice other men when I walked into a room. Now I'm starting to notice other men. I think it's because of how poorly you've been treating me, how you put your hands on me, you've called me names and stuff. And I want us to go to marriage counseling because I don't want to feel attracted to other people. I want us to be together, and I want this to work. And his response to me telling him this is, go ahead and go and try to date that dude. See if he wants your crazy ass and all these fucking kids. That was legitimately his answer to me telling him, you're abusing me and it's causing me to look outside our marriage. So.
Okay, so I tell him that I have a crush on this dude from the meetings. He tells me to go for it. I beg him to go to marriage counseling. We actually do end up going to a marriage counselor that one of our friends had recommended, but he doesn't really put any effort into it, and really nothing gets accomplished the whole time that we're there. The guy tries to, like, give us homework and stuff, and he just has no interest and doesn't do it at all. So it's like the summer of 2022 at this point, and we make it through the summer. Me and that guy have, like, an emotional connection, but we don't do anything. The guy was, like, a very Christian person, and he was pretty much like, look, I have no interest in talking to a married woman, which I have mad respect for. And he was basically like, when you get your shit together and you're by yourself, hit me up. But until then, like, all we can be is friends, which I understood. And it wasn't like I actually wanted to cheat on my husband. I wanted my husband to, like, be good to me. And I wanted to have a happy marriage. And I just, like, wasn't getting that at home. And I was begging him, like, please pay attention to me. Please be nice to me. Please stop fighting with me. please like do this. Wasn't getting that from him. So I was looking for it from outside places. Looking back, I should have just divorced him then, right? But I was so like desperately afraid to be alone. I thought that it was not an option to leave the relationship until I found another relationship to go to, which is just so toxic and sick. So now we get to August of 2022, and my kids' birthdays are at the beginning of August, the end of August, and then both of my boys are born in September on the same day. So August was like a really stressful time in our household. It was back to school and stuff, and then it was birthday season. And so we had my first kid's birthday, no problems, everything was fine. We go on to have my second kid's birthday. We have these parties at our house. Everything is totally fine. His parents come and all of our friends come, and my kid gets a bunch of presents and stuff, and it's, you know, a great time or whatever. And then everybody leaves and it's time to clean up. And, you know, we did like streamers and balloons and stuff. And so there's stuff all over the place, and I ask him to help me, and he just straight up refuses. And he looks me in my face and tells me it's not my kid's birthday party. Like, because it was my daughter that he didn't have to help me. And I flew off the freaking handle. I don't know why this triggered me. Actually, I do know why this triggered me so bad. This triggered me so bad because up until this point, I had been like a single mom to his son. You know, his son lived with his parents and then came to live with us. And so it pretty much went from his mother taking care of the little boy to me taking care of the little boy, and him getting out of ever having to be a father to his child, right? He never really had to do anything. And so I was like, look, dude, I take care of your kid. You can help me take care of mine. You know what I mean? But he also was raised in a family who very much believed that like all the dad had to do was go to work, that the mom went to work, took care of the kids, cleaned the house, cooked all the food, and all the dad had to do was go to work. So, you know, he felt like he was doing more than his fair share. We get into a huge knockdown, drag out fight over us cleaning this stuff up. Again, the same thing happens that happened in the car, right? So, and then, okay. He did this thing. This is the first time that he did it, but he would go on to do this a bunch moving forward, where he would take his child that was not my son. Of the 5 kids, there was only one that was not mine. And he would say, come on, we're leaving. This is not your family anymore. You're coming with me. And it would confuse the little boy so much. And he would put him in his truck and he would take him to the store and he would buy him candy and presents and all of this stuff. He would take him to go and stay in Y'all, my alarm went off. So it cut off at the end where I was saying that he would take his son with him in a hotel and that he did that this night that I'm talking about. So anyways, we're going back and forth and it's the same stuff that it always is. I wish I never married you. You're a whore. You had a bunch of kids with a bunch of different guys. I can't even stand looking at you, blah, 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 blah. And he puts his son in the car and they're about to leave. Now, I don't know why I did this. This is like toxic chick 101, but I chased him outside in the car and was like trying to beg him not to leave. Please stay, please stay. I also was like, why don't you just leave the little boy? You know what I mean? Like, he doesn't need to be like, you know, moved all around and stuff because this is going on. This has got nothing to do with him. Like, just leave him here, you know? He refused only because I asked, you know what I mean? It was so dumb. Anyways, so he is like in the car, his little boy is in the back seat. My kids are all 4 of my kids are in the house, right? And we're standing there and he tells me, he's like, it's over, bitch, it's over. And I said, ask in, we been over. Talking about the dude that I told him I had a crush on, that he told me to go for it. So I name dropped that, right? Not smart at all. Anybody who has been in a domestic violence relationship knows that your abuser will push you to a point to where you want to hurt them back and you say something like thinking it's going to hurt them, and all it does is give them the ammo to absolutely destroy you and feel justified by doing it. So I recognize the look in his eyes as like pure animalistic rage, and I'm like, oh shit. And so I take off and I'm running away from him, right? And he gets out of the car and he follows me. And our garage door is open. I go in through our garage. And so like, this is me in the garage. So, well, let's say this, I'm in the garage. I come through the door and I shut the door like this, okay? He kicks the fucking door open, okay? I fly like this into like a corner behind the door, okay? So I am stuck. It's like the wall and then me and then the door that he has kicked open, okay? And he's trying to get to me, but I am like trapped over here, like the pantry, me, the door. He can't get to me. And so he is on this side of the door and he's beating me with the door, just taking the door, bam, 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 over and over and over again. And I'm over here just getting wrecked with the door. I mean, just over and over again, getting wrecked, right? He does that so many times that the door comes off of its hinges. And so the way that our kitchen was set up, it was like, okay, you come in through the garage, the pantry is right here, the washing machine is right there. So my phone was set on top of the washing machine. He picks up my phone, smashes it on the ground over and over and over again until it's not usable at all. Like you can't even turn it on, okay? So that I couldn't contact the police and tell them about what he had done. And my daughter, my oldest daughter, hears all this commotion and she comes and she tells him, get the F out of my house. She comes and she like stops the fight. Him seeing her and her speaking to him, like it brings him back to reality and he realizes what he's doing. And it was almost like in a scary movie when a person goes from like being a werewolf to like a regular human being. Like it was like, he was like, oh my God, what have I done? And he looked at her and she was like, get the F out of my house. And he turned around and he just left, right? He changed on Facebook that we were in a relationship. He stayed in a hotel that. So at this point, I make a fake Facebook so that I can message him on Facebook, like the Toxida that I am. And I am like, please come home. I love you. I'm sorry. I'm apologizing to him. And again, I'm like, I just need to learn to watch my mouth. I should have let you leave. I should have done all these things differently so that you didn't hit me. It's my fault. And I have really tried to like dig deep down into why I did this. And the only thing that I can think of is number one, I loved his son so much. I got a tattoo for him on my arm. Like that was my baby. And I did not want to lose my son. Also, he had like an unstable relationship with his biological mom, and I felt like it was going to ruin his life to not have me and my children. And I just really like didn't want to be the chick who had 4 kids with 4 different guys that wasn't married to any of them. And so I was like, this has to work, and ended up just making it so much worse than just letting it end. Okay, so that happens, and the stuff with the door happens. He comes home the next day because I beg him to come back. He tells my daughter that he's sorry, that it'll never happen again. He promises to go to counseling. We go back to marriage counseling with the same guy, and he's like, hey, you guys were here, then you quit coming for a couple of months, now you're back. What happened? So we tell him about the incidents of the domestic violence. We also tell him about how I had a crush on dude buddy at the meeting, and like we're honest with our marriage counselor about everything. And he looks at my husband and he tells him, hey, you guys don't need marriage counseling, you need individual counseling. And he tells him, you are the problem, you are being physically violent, you have anger issues, you have a bunch of stuff that you need to work on internally. And he was like, I think that you should take individual counseling sessions. And so we decide, okay, we're going to do individual counseling because like we need to work on ourselves internally, right? And so I get into individual counseling for myself, and he is in individual counseling with the marriage counselor guy, okay? So remember that. The kind of therapy that I was in talk therapy, and I was in EMDR therapy, which is a therapy that is specifically targeted at trauma. And so I'm the child of 2 addicts, and I also was a victim of sexual assault as a child. So I have a lot of trauma that I think affects the way that I am in my romantic relationships. I think that's why I'm so codependent. I think that's why I have such a hard time being alone. And so I was trying to work on myself and unpack all of that trauma. And the talk therapy really helped me a lot. I had a therapist named Kate that I would meet with over like telehealth every week, and I made a lot of headway, and I did a lot of work on myself working with her. And I really feel like that lady helped me so much. The EMDR therapy, I wish that they gave more of a warning about some of the side effects and like what the process is like, because I was not expecting what happened to me to happen when I started that kind of therapy. And so basically what happens is you bring up all this trauma, right, that your brain is compartmentalized so that you can deal with it and then like rewire the way that you remember it and think about it. And for example, there was like a specific memory of my parents fighting and like my mom like coming into the room and like hitting me or whatever. And we rewired my brain, instead of remembering like my mom hitting me, to think about how my brother came in and protected me and how he slept on the floor in front of the door, right? And so it's like refocusing, instead of to remember the trauma, to remember like good pieces of the memory, right? And so what he didn't tell me is that like your brain doesn't recognize that this is only an hour-long session, and that like periodically, right, our session will end. Your brain continues to process things. And so what happened, I start having all of these insanely horrific dreams, specifically around the sexual trauma that I experienced whenever I was a child. I'm waking up in cold sweats. I'm puking everywhere. I can't eat. I can't sleep. Like, I am very not okay. And I wish that the guy would have told me, like, just stick it out. It's part of the process. You'll feel better at the end. He really didn't provide me any sort of like aftercare. And so I just like cold turkey quit going to the EMDR therapy. But what I did was I like opened up this compartment in my brain that had all this trauma. And then I just like didn't process any of it, didn't do anything with it, didn't talk to anybody about it. I just completely cold turkey quit going to all of my therapists. And that was not a good idea. Not a good idea. I'm in a violent relationship. I have years of trauma. I'm, a person in long-term recovery. I need to be going to therapy. But the dreams that I was having upset me so bad and made me have like vivid flashbacks of the things that had happened to me, to the point to where I was just like, I cannot do this anymore. And so I just completely stopped all therapy. September, our son has his first birthday. We make it through the holidays and stuff, and we get around to 2023, right? And so keep in mind, together all of 2020 doesn't hit me. Together all of 2021 doesn't hit me. Then he hits me February of 2022, May of 2022, and August of 2022. Okay, so it goes from no physical violence at all to 3 instances like every couple of months it's happening. So it is progressively getting worse. We make it through the holidays and we get to January of 2023. So our kids had made some friends in the neighborhood, right? And these 2 little girls had moved in from Alabama, and they were playing with my daughter a lot. And they had a birthday party for one of the little girls over there, and I go to the birthday party, right? And so I'm at this birthday party, and the next door neighbors to these people, so like I live right here, the girl whose birthday party it is lives across the street from me, and this is her neighbor to the right of her. Okay, so they live in the same neighborhood as me, but they're not my neighbors, and I've never talked to these people before. Well, they're talking about how they're going to put their house on the market, and I look over at the house and it is ginormous, and I'm like, that house? You're putting that house on the market? And she's like, yeah. And I said, can I like go look at it? And she was like, absolutely. So I go walk through this lady's house. It's literally walking distance from where I live now, in the same neighborhood. My kids would stay in the same school. They'd have all the same friends and stuff, and it's a 6-bedroom house. And so I was like, hey, how about like, instead of like you putting this on the market, like you just let me buy it? And she was like, absolutely, let's do that. And so we exchange like phone numbers and stuff like that. And, she gives me her real estate agent's information and all that kind of stuff. So we make it pretty good January, February, and March, right? Everything is totally fine. We definitely want to buy the house that's down the street that the neighbors are selling. They're not ready to sell it yet. They were looking for a place for them to move or whatever. So we're waiting on that. My birthday rolls around in April again. Now, the previous year, he took me to Asheville, and like we went to that beautiful mansion and stuff, and we stayed in this really nice Airbnb. And so I'm thinking like, okay, he's about to like show out because last year sucked so bad. He's going to try to make up for it with a trip or a gift or something. And I gave him specific instructions on what I wanted for my birthday. I wanted to go to this place that was like a bed and breakfast. We had ate there for dinner before, but we had never stayed there. And I was like, I want to go there. I want to go ride horses in the mountains. Like I gave him like an itinerary of what I wanted to do. All he had to do was pay for it. We have a joint bank account. I mean, it's really not like he's having to do anything at this point. Okay. And he just didn't do it because it was too expensive. Okay. I'm thinking this entire time that there's like a surprise or something because he has always done such a good job on my birthday. So we get a babysitter, the kids are gone, everything's fine. We wake up. I wake up early. I'm like shocked that I don't have breakfast in bed and that there's not like an entire day planned. He sleeps in until like 11 o'clock on my fucking birthday, which just already pissed me off so bad. Then he gets up, instead of coming out and greeting me, takes a shower, gets ready, and acts like he's about to walk out the door. And I was like, where in the fuck are you going? He says, to go play golf with Bill and Roy. On my birthday? On my birthday. When we have 5 kids and we have a babysitter and we're completely alone, you're going to leave me by myself on my birthday so you can go and play golf with your friends. He bought me this wallet and thought that because he got me that, he didn't have to spend time with me. He didn't have to hang out with me. No card, no cake, no nothing. Keep in mind, his previous birthdays, we had taken trips to the beach. He had got a brand new truck. I mean, all kinds of expensive stuff. We went to the SEC championship. There was no problem spending a shit ton of money on his birthday. Okay. But my birthday, oh, we can't afford that. Even though at this point we're doing well. We have like probably $30,000 in our savings account at this time. Okay. I'm so afraid of him at this point. I make it known that I'm pissed off that he's not making a big deal about my birthday, but I'm like scared to do anything about it, right? And so I'm just like crying and I'm like, look, you're not going to play golf with your friends. We're going to go hiking. We're going to salvage the last bit of whatever, like of the day that we can. We go to hike this mountain or whatever. I'm so pissed off the whole time. Like I'm just crying. The whole day is ruined. He does nothing to try to make it better. He could have made dinner reservations, does nothing, which like at this point, I was genuinely surprised. Now that I'm telling the story, I'm not surprised. It's like, look at everything he did in 2022. Of course, he's not going to be great in 2023, but because all my birthdays before that, he had done so good, I just had such high expectations, you know? I did not know this, but later he would use me being upset about my birthday as an excuse to go out and relapse. And when we would get home and I would say, I just want to take a bubble bath and be by myself, and I go cry in the bathtub, he would leave and go and get high.
Oh, he doesn't get me anything for my birthday, or we don't do anything for my birthday. I did get a wallet. And then I say I want to go home and take a bath, and he uses this as an excuse to go to the gas station and buy some gas station dope and get high. He hides this from me all of April and all of May. I don't find out that he's doing this. Our wedding anniversary is May 22nd. So this is our 2-year wedding anniversary. Because of all of the violence and because of him messing up my birthday, he decides that he's going to go all out for our wedding anniversary, and he buys us tickets to go and see Wicked at the Fox. I love Wicked. I've read the book a bunch of times. I'm a very big like Disney adult and into like musical theater and stuff like that. And so I am ecstatic and over the moon excited about this. I'm bragging to all my friends. I buy like a beautiful outfit to wear to the Fox, and I'm like super duper excited. I tell everybody at my job, oh my God, he bought me tickets to the Fox. I'm so spoiled. This is so great, blah, 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 right? And so we share each other's locations, and I go home and I pick up the kids and I'm getting ready for our date. My brother is on his way over to our house. We've got a babysitter set up and we're all good to go. And I look at the time and I'm like, he usually is home by now. So I check his location to see how far away he is, and he is at the gas station. And I know deep down in my gut, he's fucked up. I know it. And so I'm like, stop, it's okay, don't ruin the night, whatever. And he finally gets home and I go hug him and I can smell alcohol on him. And I'm just like, dude, it's literally like 5 o'clock, like you couldn't even wait until you got somewhere. And I was like, dude, have you been drinking? And he was like, yeah. And he just like straight up admitted it to me. And I told him like, I don't want to be married to someone who drinks. I'm in recovery. We met in NA. Like the cornerstone of this marriage is sobriety, is being clean. If you're not going to be clean, we cannot be in this marriage together. And not for nothing, you cannot drink successfully. Every time you do, it takes you right back to your best friend, Seth, So like, you don't need to be doing that stuff. And we get into an argument, and he basically, when I say, I don't want to be married to somebody who uses, he says, well, I don't want to be married to you. I want to get a divorce, right? And so at this point, I'm like, fine, whatever. I'm going to see Wicked. I don't give a shit about what you got going on. I am going to see this show, right? And so he's got the tickets in his Apple Wallet on his phone because he bought them. And so I'm like, just send me the tickets. You can, and he's like, I'm not staying with the kids. And I was like, you don't have to stay with the kids. My brother is coming to watch the kids. I'll take my oldest daughter. And we will go. And you can go and do whatever you want. Go drink, go hang out with your friends, whatever, just leave. He will not do this. Just like my celebration and just like my birthday, he wants to ruin this for me. If we can't go together and he can't be shit-faced while we're there, then I don't get to go and enjoy it and I don't get to have fun, right? And so he gets in his car to leave. He doesn't take his son this time because he's already been drinking. And so he gets in his car to leave, and he is like sitting in his truck with the door open right here. And I am standing at his door so he can't leave with my phone. And I'm like, send me the tickets, please just send me the tickets. And he's like, F you, get the F away from me, blah, 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 whatever, and all this stuff. And I'm like, dude, it's over. We're getting a divorce. I don't care. Just send me the effing tickets, okay? Now, this is June of 2023, and he's been relapsed for 2 months, and I don't know that he's been using this whole time. I think he's just drank today, right? Well, when I say, like, it's over, we're getting a divorce, it's done, he grabs me by my hair, okay? And he shoves me on the ground. Like, he, like, lunges at me, like, gets out of the truck, and I am on the floor, and he puts his foot on my back, and then he, like, leans down to where my ear is, and he says, I could effing unalive you, you B-word. And I've got grass in my hair. We're in the front yard in broad daylight in a residential neighborhood where kids play and stuff. So I call the cops. I'm over it. I'm done with this. He takes off in his car. I tell him he's driving drunk and all of this stuff and blah, 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 whatever. The police flag him down and make him drive back to the house. Why they didn't arrest him, why they didn't give him a breathalyzer or anything like that, I don't know. They pull us aside. It's a man cop, okay? It's a male cop. The cop interviews him and he tells him he didn't touch me, that I'm being dramatic, that he wants a divorce, and that I'm upset about it, and that I called the police because I didn't want him to leave. I don't tell them that he hit me because I don't want him to go to jail. All the kids are watching. They're like looking through the windows and stuff, and they see the cops there. They don't know why. I'm trying to like not let them know what's going on, right? And so I don't say anything about him hitting me. I just say like, we were supposed to go do this thing. Now he is withholding the tickets. We purchased them from a joint bank account. Those are mine. I should have the right to go. Please make him give me the tickets. And so they did force him to give me the tickets. My brother pulls up and sees the cops in our driveway, and he's like, what's going on? And I was like, look, I don't want to talk about it right now. JP's going to leave. You're going to stay here with the younger kids. I'm going to take my oldest daughter with me, and we are going to go and see Wicked. And that is what we did. Okay, so me and my daughter, we go to the show. We have a great time. He comes home, acts like everything is normal and nothing even happened. I'm ready to leave at this point. Like, I'm ready to GTFOH. You know what I'm saying? Guess what happens the next fucking day? Our real estate agent calls us and tells us that the people in the big house down the street are ready to move, that they found their place, that they're going, and that we can put our house on the market, right? This house that I bought for $180,000 is now worth $300,000. And we have the opportunity to move into this giant home where all of our kids would have their own rooms. And like right now, because I know everything that's happened and I know how everything works out, I would tell myself, stay in the small house. Do not go buy that big house. But I kept thinking, well, maybe this will fix it, right? Maybe when we all have enough space and everything, like if we finally get what he wants, he will be happy and maybe he'll get better, you know? And I keep seeing in the comments, people are like, we listen and we judge. I can't believe she did this, blah, 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 and all this stuff. Look, if you have never like struggled with codependency or been in a relationship where you made choices that were against your best interest because you just wanted so badly for the relationship to work, I don't know what to tell you. Like, if you're just like some logical girl who's always made great decisions and has never like let a guy break your heart or hurt you, then maybe these videos are not for you. But I know personally, so many women relate to this story and have been in situations of domestic violence and because they love their partner, and because just like me, the guy was nice to them, didn't lay a hand on them for years, and then all of a sudden starts hitting them out of nowhere. And so there's this little voice in the back of your head that's like, it can be good again. It was good for the first year. It was good for the second year. You know what I mean? Like, and telling yourself, he didn't start hitting me until after this happened or whatever. And you buy your own bullshit to believe the delusion that you don't have to end this relationship and that you can stay in this marriage and that you can keep your family, okay? So if you can't relate to that, that's cool. You can keep scrolling or watch somebody else's shit. You know what I mean? We put our house on the market. It gets bought in like 3 effing days. The people move out of the big house, and we move down the street. Now this house is bought in both of our names, not refinanced, not nothing. We bought it in both of our names. I'm the primary and he is like a co-signer or whatever on the loan. Okay. So we moved down the street. That is August of 2023. Okay. And so, like 5 days after we move into the house, his drinking is just out of control. He is off the deep end, lost his damn mind, drinking so much. I get the house all nice and set up pretty and stuff, and all the kids are gone, and he comes home shit-faced and just destroys it, punching holes in the wall, ripping stuff off the wall. I had to barricade myself in the room and push like a giant Chester drawer in front of the door and call the police. And so I don't know why the cops were not arresting him, because it would have been a lot easier to leave if he was in jail, but they would never arrest him. He would always leave the scene. Okay. And then they would call him on the phone and he would tell them, I don't know what she's talking about. And because our 2 stories didn't corroborate, they never had any grounds to arrest him. And he would just be like, I wasn't there. I didn't do that. She did that and is blaming it on me. I didn't do that. And it was very obvious that I didn't do it. And the lady, this time it was a female police officer that came, and she wrote in there that she thought he was lying but didn't have any proof. So that was at least good on her part. Thanks for that. So at this point, I go and file for divorce. It's August 28th or something like that. It's like the end of August, like the tail end of August. I go and I file for divorce, and I kick him out of the house, and I tell him, you have to get the F out of the house. Like, I'm not doing this anymore. And I file a restraining order, and I file for divorce. And he goes to an inpatient detox center, which honestly is the biggest fucking joke ever. I've never been to detox, but the place that he was going to, I went and looked it up online, and it was like the most comfortable medical center. They just kept him high the whole freaking time. They just kept him high the whole time. And so he's in that place for like 2 months. He misses our son's 2nd birthday. I dropped the restraining order because his parents are, you know, calling and texting me and stuff while he's in there, and they're like, he's getting better, we're going to visit him, he's gonna change, he's getting sober, blah, 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 blah. And they act like he's gonna get sober so everything is gonna be okay. And I'm like, no, this dude is a monster when he's clean. Like, this is not about him being sober. This is about him being angry. And they're like, well, he's gonna stop the steroids and blah, 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 and all of this stuff, right? And so he's ducking and dodging being served with the divorce paperwork. They lie and say that he's not there and that they don't know where he is, so he doesn't get served with the divorce paperwork. But he does get served with the restraining order stuff, and they convince me to drop it. And so I drop it. I drop the restraining order. He completes the program and he comes home and we try to make it work. And so that's October of 2023. It's October 2023, Halloween, right? And so his son stayed living with me the whole time. When I filed divorce, when he was gone, like, his son stayed at the house with me the entire time, right? And so it's Halloween. We're taking the kids trick-or-treating. Well, we have like an older daughter, 3 middle kids that are all within like a couple of months of each other, and then a baby, right? And so older kid was out with her friends. Middle kids were like ready to hit the ground running. They're like 5, 6, 7 years old at this time. So they are like prime age for Halloween. Well, the baby's 2, you know what I mean? He can't hang with the big kids. And so he starts to get like kind of restless and stuff. And so I ask him, I'm like, hey, can you take the baby home? I'll stay out here with the middle kids. We'll go trick-or-treating and then I'll meet you back at the house. And he's like, yeah, that's fine, whatever. So he takes the baby home, or so I think. Okay. I go trick-or-treating with the kids, and I come home and he's drunk. I can immediately smell on his breath that he is drunk. And so I'm like, what the fuck? You're home alone with the baby. You're drinking. What's going on? Blah, 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 blah. I go and look in the trash and I can't find any bottles or anything. Come to find out, he drove to the gas station with our baby in the car and chugged White Claws in the parking lot and then drove home after drinking with our baby in the car. I don't know why this was the last straw for me, but this was it. After this, I was completely done, and I never, ever wanted to be with him again after this. It was about getting out safely after this. Up until this point, I kept thinking, like, we can make it work, we can make it work, we can make it work. As of October 2023, no, I'm done. I'm completely done. This is it for me. I kick him out, and he goes to a treatment center in Decula, and he's coming by the house all the time, and he's, you know, trying to make it work and stuff. And I really just wanted to keep his son living with me. I'll be perfectly honest with you. I kind of like drug him along a little bit and made it seem like I still wanted to like work things out when I had no intentions on working things out at all. I just didn't want his son to get shuffled around from place to place to place. I wanted him to stay with me because I had raised him for like 3 or 4 years at this point. And so yeah, I'm pretty much just pretending like things are okay. He's out of the house. I'm home alone with all 5 of the kids. He's still helping me like financially though. Just keeps relapsing. I mean, just keeps relapsing over and over and over again. It's like he'll get a week or 2 and then relapse over and over and over again. The holidays come, and I just really want his son to be with us for one last Thanksgiving and one last Christmas and stuff. And so he's not living in the home. He's gone. He's living in like residential treatment centers and stuff like that. And I'm telling him, we are broken up, but if you get clean, we can work it out. I have no intentions of working it out though. I'm just hoping and praying that eventually he will come to terms with the fact that the relationship is over and he will just bow out gracefully. That does not happen, okay? I just want you to know that is not what happens. So we're broken up. He thinks we're still together though, and I keep telling him, no, we're not. We're not together. It's January of 2024 now. We've made it through the holidays, and I'm trying to push him away. He's trying to reel me in. He keeps saying he's gonna get clean. Doesn't work. February is when things get the craziest that they've been in this entire story though, so. This is going to be like a filler video to answer some questions because I keep seeing a lot of the same questions in the comments, and I think the background
is important. So the first thing people keep asking about is baby mama. I'm not going to get like too in depth into her side of the story, because trust me, she could make a million of these videos and be viral on TikTok too. She honestly had it worse than I did. So all I will say is that they met whenever they were in active addiction. She had 2 children from previous relationships, and they lived in his family's home. So a lot of the decisions that she made were like because she needed a place to live. I think she tolerated the way that he treated her and the things that he did to her for a long time so that she had a roof over her head. And then after the stuff that happened at the gas station happened, she dropped the charges. I don't think she wanted to. I think she felt like, if I don't, me and my kids are going to be homeless, right? And so, not like to defend myself or anything, I'm just explaining my thought process during this time. All of the information that I had was coming from people who all had the same story, and it was that she was the bad guy. You have to keep in mind, she doesn't have custody of her child, okay? And so they're like, well, she's a bad mom, right? She's an active addiction. She's a cheater. She's this, that, and the other, right? And they're all saying it, and she doesn't have custody of her kid. And so I believe them. I believe all of this stuff that they're telling me. I don't find out until this point in the story, right? October of 2023, when I reach out and I start talking to her. It's all lies. It is all lies. The family pretty much like stole her baby. I mean, I really don't want to get into it too much, but they definitely manipulated that girl into giving them her child. And that's why she has her other 2 kids and she doesn't have that one. If she was such a bad mom, why would she have her 2 older kids? They're perfectly healthy. They play sports. They go to school. After I actually talked to her and I got her side of the story, I realized that I had been completely lied to by his entire family, that they knew their son was abusive to women and that they covered it up for him and enabled him to continue to do it to other people. More background information that I think is important is at the time I had a sponsee who had become my best friend. We started a recovery community organization together, and we were like very, very close. He thought that I wanted to leave him because of her, which was not true. So he hated her. He did not like her at all. And me and her were like this, and we talked every single day, right? Well, she has her recovery celebration, and she asked me to tell my story at her celebration. And this is in December of 2023. So keep in mind, I filed for divorce in August. So we had been separated September, October, November, December, 4 months. We did have like a brief time period in October where we had tried to get back together, but I was done since I filed for divorce. I gave it one last ditch effort. That October stuff was definitely like the nail in the coffin for me. But so December I go and I tell my story at her celebration. We've been separated like 5 months at this point, okay? So I tell my story at the celebration, and there's this guy at the meeting that my best friend is friends with, and he like lives in a different town. They're like live like an hour away from me or whatever. And so I've like heard of him through my friend, but I've never like actually like been around him and talked to him. And he started trying to talk to me, and I was like, he likes me. And he started liking my pictures on Facebook and all that stuff. And so you could tell that he wasn't sure if I was married or not, and that he wasn't like sure on how to proceed. And so he was like kind of like hanging out in the background. And to be honest, I wasn't sure how to proceed either. Like I really wanted to stay single and work on myself, but I also like I have borderline personality disorder, and I deeply struggle with codependency, like really, really, really bad. And if you are not someone who struggles with borderline, you cannot understand how it feels to lose your favorite person and not have someone to replace it with. It feels like one of your vital organs is missing. It would be like cutting your hand off and just walking around with a nub. Like it hurts you physically, okay? And so he and we start casually talking, just, you know, exchanging text messages and stuff like that. It's nothing serious or anything like that. And It's basically because I don't really know what's going to happen at this point, and because my stepson still lives with me, and I'm like, I want to try to keep him, but I know if this actually does end up ending, it's not going to happen. I'm not his mom. They're not going to let him stay with me. And so I just kind of was like in this little middle ground where I was like dragging my ex-husband along, making him think that we could possibly work it out, just like encouraging him to get sober and hoping that if he got a little bit of sobriety under his belt, that he would be able to like leave the relationship peacefully and not crash out, and that I would still be able to like maintain a co-parenting relationship with my stepson, and that I could like, you know, casually like go on a couple of dates and see what the dating pool was like. Well, that did not happen. He continues to not live with me, right? It gets to be January, he's not living with me. February, he's not living with me, right? And over the month of January and February, me and this guy, we go on a couple of dates. He does not meet my children. He doesn't come around. Nothing happens. Like, he stays away. I tell him I want to wait 6 months before you meet my kids and all of this stuff. And, you know, like, we're just... like, I'm trying to take it slow, which is something that I have never done in my life. And it was really hard. I don't sleep with them. Nothing. Like, you know what I mean? It's very different than any relationship that I have ever tried to start. So February comes around, and the NA convention for my state happens. And me and this guy go to the NA convention, and he asked me to be his girlfriend. And I say yes. And I'm super excited and like happy and stuff. And I don't know, I feel like I'm in my 20s. Like, it's like I have these two different lives, right? Like, and when me and this guy are together, it's like secret because nobody knows him. My kids don't know him. My friends don't know him. You know what I mean? Like, it's like we're in our own little world, and I can like escape and hang out with him for like an hour once a week or something, you know? And so I really enjoy that. And in February, he comes over to my house at nighttime for the first time. And I did not know, but my ex-husband had been stalking me every single night. He had been driving past my house to see if anyone was there. No one had came up until that point in February. So from August of 2023 to February, I didn't have anybody over at our home. I didn't like date anybody or talk to anybody or anything. I just started like seeing this guy, you know, in like February. We started talking in December, but whatever. So I find out that he had been driving past my home in the middle of the night every night to look and see if somebody was there. And this night he sees a car there. And so what does he do? What do you guys think he does? Text me, who the F is in my house, Tori. He then proceeds to take his truck and run it into my new guy's truck over and over and over again until he totals the vehicle. He then gets out and he tries to kick down my door. Now, thank God I have a bunch of locks on my door because I knew something like this was coming. Like, I could feel it in my bones, right? And so I call the police. The cops come. They're like trying to get him on the ground. He's refusing to go down. I can tell by looking at him through the window. He's been hanging out with his friend Seth again. And he gets arrested for criminal property damage and all kinds of other stuff too, right? And so that is, February of 2024.
This is hard to talk about. I had to start over because I started crying. But so February, right before this happened, I had told them that I was completely done and that my stepson could move back to his grandmother's house. I didn't want to give him back. I wanted to keep him. But I knew that as long as he was with me, that my ex-husband would think that there was some like sort of hope that we could be together. And I did not want to be with him anymore. And I wanted to move on. And whether it was in a new relationship with this guy that I had been talking to, or just to be alone or whatever, I knew I didn't want to be with him. And so, they came and they packed up his room and they took his stuff and he moved out. And I saw him one time after that. He came to my best friend's daughter's birthday party, and they have not ever let me see him again. They won't let me talk to him on the phone. They won't let me have anything to do with him. And it really sucks because he is my youngest child's blood sibling, and my other kids, you know, they're only like 7 and they lived with him for 4 years. So that was their brother for half their life, and they don't ever get to see him or talk to him again. And that part just really is difficult. So he gets arrested for what he does to the truck and all that stuff. And while he's in jail, I have him served with the divorce papers. So he has officially been served with the divorce papers. And between August and February, he was moving around to different treatment centers and leaving and staying at his parents and going to detox and stuff. And so I never knew where he was to like have him served with the papers. He would come by my house, but I didn't have like a way to serve him. Like he wouldn't take them, right? He was ducking and dodging it on purpose and stuff. And so he got served with the divorce papers in the jail. And so that was good. The day that he got bailed out of jail by his parents, my password to everything is the same, right? My password to my Netflix, to my Gmail, to my bank account, everything is the same because I could only remember one, and he knew that. So he proceeded to hack into my bank account and Zelle himself every single dollar that I had in my bank account. Every single dollar. I call the cops to report him for stealing all this money from me. And they say that because we're still technically married, that it's not stealing because everything that I own is technically his and he has access to all of this money if he wants it. And so I'm like freaking out because I have a mortgage to pay. I have 4 children to feed. What am I going to do? I have no money. And so his parents have like never really been in trouble with the law. The only like legal issues they have ever had has been because of him, like helping him with things and stuff. And so I tell her like he's about to go to jail for like a white collar embezzlement crime. And I just lie to her, right? And she sends me the money, which I would feel bad about, but I don't because his parents knew what he was like and they just enabled his behavior so much. They did it with his ex and they did it with me too. And I felt really guilty once all of this started happening that I perpetuated this against another woman. I definitely feel like all of the things that like go on to happen to me were karma because I helped them happen to somebody else because I wanted so badly to be in love. And I can take full responsibility for that. I realized that I was so desperate to have my white picket fence and to be able to say I got married and that I owned a home and that I had my happily ever after, that I like tried to build it on another woman's pain. And I really had a hard time accepting that. And I have apologized to her, and I know that like moving forward, I will never do that ever again. I will never not believe a woman, no matter what her living situation is like, or if you look at her and you think, oh, well, she doesn't look like she's doing so great, so she's probably not telling the truth. I will never do that ever again. Never. I thought that the dude that I was talking to, once his car got totaled and somebody tried to unalive him, would be like, hey, I don't want to talk to you. But he continued to date me. So we continued to date. And then, you know, we were more careful, obviously, about spending time together. But we still did spend time together. It was just mainly like in public places and stuff. And then in April, he came over to my house again. Well, my ex-husband was continuing to stalk me and driving past my house. And so he sees him over here on this night and he drives through my yard a bunch and does a bunch of wheelies in my yard and stuff. And hold on. To mention that my transmission had gone out of my vehicle. Okay. And so my car's in the shop and I am driving a rental car. And so I have a Volkswagen Tiguan in my driveway, right? And so he comes, he's blaring on the horn or whatever because the guy's truck is there and he's freaking out and he's acting crazy and stuff, blah, 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 whatever. I call the cops, he leaves because he doesn't want to get arrested and all this stuff. I go to bed, right? I get up the next morning, I walk out to my car to go to work, and the word slut is keyed into the back of my car. So I call the cops, I report the damage. I don't have cameras or anything like that at my property at this point in time because I am now paying a $2,500 a month mortgage completely alone. I'm not getting any child support. I don't have any roommates or anything like that. It's just me and my kids living here, right? And so, yeah, I do think it would have been smart to buy some cameras, but I didn't have $500 extra to do that. So I was just kind of like SOL, you know? Thankfully, there are these things called flock safety cameras that are like all over the place that cops have, and they were able to show that he was driving right past my house at the time that happened. And so they end up going to his job and arresting him again for criminal property damage and violation of a protective order because we had that no contact order and he was not supposed to be speaking to me. Time he gets arrested and he stays in jail for like almost a month or something like that. I don't know, it was like 2 weeks to a month or something. And I'm finally feeling some peace knowing that he is like away, right? And then somehow he gets this girl. I don't know how he does this, dude. He gets on the little tablet that they give you in jail and he convinces this girl to spend $20,000 to get him a criminal defense attorney. $20,000 off a jail tablet. I cannot even, I wish this was made up because it is so infuriating. But she spends 20 grand and gets him the best attorney in our county. A bond hearing, and I write this thing about how I don't want him to get out. They let him out anyways because this attorney like plays golf with the judge or something, and so they just let him out even though he already violated the conditions of his first bond, right? And so they let him out and they send him to this treatment center that's like far away, and we are not supposed to have any contact with each other. Now, I filed a restraining order at this point in time. I sure did. I filed another restraining order whenever this stuff happened, and I did not drop this one. I actually showed up to go to court. Well, I didn't have an attorney because I didn't think you needed an attorney for a restraining order. Well, his attorney was there. Yeah, sure was. I personally have not been in a whole lot of legal trouble, and outside of that, I've always been like poor and never been able to afford an attorney. So I am about to make a really big mistake, but I just was very naive. Okay. So I just want to go ahead and say that. But so his attorney shows up and then he asked to speak to me privately, and he takes me to this little closet where it's like just me and him. And he tells me that I don't need a restraining order against this man because I already have a no contact order, and that they are essentially the exact same thing, and that there's no reason to have this. And so unless I want to waste my entire day sitting in court for a protection that I already have, that I can just leave. And so I was like, okay, like a dumbass. We have a no contact order, but the restraining order is dropped, right? Twice. Two times the restraining order is dropped, okay? So keep that in mind. So the restraining order gets dropped a second time, and things are pretty chill between us from April until August. I'm not sure what happens on his end in August, but he relapses. It's got nothing to do with me, though. We're not like seeing each other or like talking or anything. And I get a phone call from the district attorney's office because I have like a victim's advocate that's been talking to me while they're like trying to figure out the criminal case, because he's got pending charges for criminal property damage and violating a protective order and all this stuff, right? So they give me a phone call and they're like, hey, by the way, he relapsed, he got kicked out of treatment, and he is no longer in this place. So keep your head on a swivel. They said that they had issued a motion to revoke his bond, but that they couldn't go to court for like a month. So for just like a month, he was just like out there doing whatever he wanted to. And he was like burning it to the ground. Okay. So I'm like, great. The whole month of August, this person is texting me, calling me, blowing me up like nobody's business. Then he's so messed up, he doesn't realize, I don't know if you remember from several videos ago, I mentioned that my daughter's birthday is in August. Well, my older daughter has a cell phone. He messages her and he's like, I miss my family so much. This is the biggest mistake. Doesn't realize it's her birthday. It's her birthday. Yeah. And so he's just like, that really upset her. And that pissed me off so bad. And that was like another last straw for me. And somebody said in the comments, when he does stuff to me, I don't care. But when he messes with my kids is whenever I get very upset and things start to change. And so I blocked him on everything.
I told him, if you ever reach out to my daughter again, I will make sure that you are buried underneath the jail. Don't ever talk to my kids again. And so then he starts like downloading all of these apps, right? Like he's downloading these like Google Now apps or whatever to like give you like a fake number, and he's calling and texting me from those. And he's just like prank calling me at this point because he's so high. He's like using fake accents and like pretending like he's like a Chinese delivery guy, just harassing me all the time, right? All the time. Then, what else does he do? Oh, he starts doing a different DOC. And this one is the one that starts with the letter F and is like really hurting a lot of people right now. He starts doing that. And he starts telling me, I am doing this on purpose to try to unalive myself so that you have to live with it for the rest of your life, that it's your fault that you did this to me. You took my boys from me. You took my family from me. You made me look like a fool to everybody that knows both of us. And so now I'm going to end myself to punish you, okay? And people that were like around him at this time told me that he was like legitimately like writing letters and stuff to our sons and like actually legitimately trying to harm himself. All this is happening, I'm consistently calling the cops, but because I dropped those 2 restraining orders, they don't take me seriously. And why would they, right? Like, I look like the boy who cried wolf at this point, and I'm ready to get some help now, right? But they don't want to help me because I've dropped the restraining order twice, and so they think that like I'm some idiot who is doing this to myself. And let's be clear, okay? I want to be so clear to all the people who have never been in a domestic violence relationship, okay? It takes on average 7 times to leave somebody. So yeah, me dropping the restraining order twice doesn't look great, but it looks like a pattern that has been proven by medical experts and therapists in domestic violence relationships. Everybody does that. I'm not some like special case that was like super delusional. Everybody does it. Everybody that is in this situation goes back to the guy. They do. And you can read the comments and see hundreds of other women who have been through the same thing. But the police, the people who should have known this more than anybody, acted like it was my fault that he was doing this to me and would not help me at all. So then I call my victim's advocate, a lady named Amanda. By the way, Amanda, if you see this, you are a fucking rock star. You are great at your job and you deserve a raise. I call her and I'm like, I keep calling the cops and telling them that he is violating the no contact order and they are not doing anything about it. They won't help me. So she picks up the phone and she calls them and she's like, y'all better make some shit shake on this. Like, y'all better figure it out. And so then he gets arrested. Guess where he's at? Less than half a mile away from my house. There is no reason on God's green earth that he should have been in the town that I live in. It is a very small town. There is one stoplight in the whole town. He doesn't know anybody that lives in this town except for me. Why was he here? He was on his way to my house when the cops got him. That's how, okay? But they get him, and what do? They let him out the next day. The girl with the $20,000 bails him right out the second that he's in there. I mean, it's just like unfathomable to me how easily this guy is just getting in and out of jail. He has got a motion to revoke his bond right now, and they arrest him on a different charge, and then they let his ass back out. It was just the craziest thing that I have ever seen in my life. And so, what happens next? Hold on. Not to mention that in like August or September, whenever it was, that he had gotten kicked out of that treatment center. So remember a couple of videos ago how I said he hacked into my bank account and he Zelled himself all of my money? Well, I changed my password to my bank account, but I didn't change my password to like the website that I pay my mortgage on or my Georgia Power login or anything like that, right? And so he went into all of the bills that I pay, my car payment, my car insurance, my mortgage payment, my electricity bill, and he double paid every single one of my bills. He collectively overdrafted my account like close to $12,000. So, yeah. Thankfully, the places that I called where I was like, please help me, this is what happened. They reversed all the charges. They took his name off of the stuff without like any legal paperwork or anything because it was women that answered the phone. And I was just bawling my eyes out. Like, and you could see where I had paid my mortgage, like when it was supposed to be paid, and how 3 days later somebody logged in and double paid it again, you know? So they knew that I was telling the truth, and it was like he was just doing it to like financially abuse me. After he relapses at the treatment center and he is kicked out of there, they issue another motion to revoke his bond, and he's out for like another month, right? Well, actually, no, they didn't file a motion to revoke his bond because the judge got so like pissed off that he had done this so many times, because this is now the third time that they've given him bond and the third time he's messed it up, okay? So the judge, my dog, hold on. But anyways, they didn't file a motion to revoke his bond. They issued a warrant for his arrest and was like immediately like, we're picking his ass up, right? And so he's got a warrant and he gets arrested for, like, he's on his phone, right? And they pull him over and he's got a warrant out for his arrest for contempt of court or whatever. And then he gets like a DUI also. And so that was September 28th of 2004. And he has been in jail ever since then. So that's, at least that part is good. Other stuff that I forgot to mention that I think is pretty important to the story is that, okay, so while he was out in between August and September during that like month that they just like let him run wild, which is just insane to me that somebody who has like charges like what this guy has could just be let out like that. But anyways, he was using all of these like apps and stuff to try and find my boyfriend's phone number, right? And my boyfriend is on his dad's phone plan. And so he actually ended up finding my boyfriend's dad's phone number. And so my insanely out of his mind high ex-husband calls my like boyfriend's 65-year-old dad that doesn't even really know me that well, thinks it's my boyfriend, and is like, I'll effing unalive you punk ass bitch, and all this stuff. And he's like, who is this? Why are you calling me, yelling at me? Like, he's just the nicest little old guy, and he was like shocked and stuff. And so he calls his son and he's like, hey, I just got this really crazy phone call. I think they were trying to call you. And my boyfriend tells him what's going on. And his dad is the sweetest guy I've ever met. He comes to me and he says, I didn't know that this guy was this dangerous. And he was like, what's the holdup in you getting divorced? And I was like, well, I don't have money for an attorney. I've filed all the paperwork, but like he just didn't sign it, or he responded and I don't know how to respond and all this stuff. And he said, find whatever attorney you want. Tell me how much it is and I'll pay for it. It was really great to like finally get some help from somebody. For so long, I have felt like everybody was blaming me for everything. And don't get me wrong, I recognize the part that I play in my own suffering, but there's not really like, it's just difficult to describe how it feels to be a woman in this situation and how awesome it feels to have somebody not judge you and to help you out. So ever since then, he has been in jail. They did do a plea deal with him. He was looking at 10 years. They offered him 2 years in prison, suspended upon completion of a program called RSAT, which is like specifically for people who struggle with substance use disorder. So he's not going to be in there with like murderers and rapists and stuff. He's going to be in there with people who have a drug problem, and it's like a rehab that you can't leave from, which is what I think he needs, because I found this out after I was already like so deep in it that I couldn't get out. But he's been in like 30 different treatment centers since he was like 17 years old. And so I think that he needs to be at a place where he doesn't have the option to leave. So yeah, that's great. That's pretty much it. A bunch of questions that I saw. I am in therapy. My daughter is going into therapy because on top of all of this stuff happening at her dad's house, her stepmom also got diagnosed with breast cancer. And so on top of all of this stuff, she's been dealing with that over there. And it's just been a lot for a kid, you know. I don't get to see my stepson. I haven't seen him since February of last year. I did get to give him a Christmas present this year, but like I didn't give it to him. I just like sent it with somebody else. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I also want to talk about accountability real quick for a second, because a lot of people in the comments of like the earlier videos are like, why didn't you do this? And why didn't you do that? And blah, 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 blah. When you are the child of 2 drug addicts, right?
you are raised in an environment to where you feel like you need to earn love because your parents don't just naturally love you, okay? And so what that causes you to do is seek out partners in your adult life that remind you of your parents. And so my father was absent from my life, and my mom was physically present, emotionally absent, and an alcoholic. So what's my type? People who abandon their children, who struggle with substance use problems, and who are emotionally unavailable, because subconsciously my inner child is trying to prove to myself, this person is just like mom and dad. And if they love me, then that proves that mom and dad were the ones who were wrong. I deserved love all along, right? I figured that out because this woman in recovery told me that she wanted to work this workbook with me, and it's called Love is a Choice, and it's about codependency and relationships and stuff, and how to navigate like having a traumatic childhood and how it causes you to have negative romantic relationships, and like how to rewire your brain so that you no longer pick people like that. And people would be like, my picker's like, but it really is broken, and it's because somebody hurt you as a kid. Still with the guy that I started talking to in December of 23, and he asked me out in February of 24. So December of 23, it's February, so we've been together like 14 months. We are not engaged. We are not even talking about getting married or anything like that. We're taking stuff super slow. One thing I did learn from all of this is that people can pretend to be somebody different for 1, 2, 3 years, and that you don't really know someone until you've seen them lose a job, gone to a funeral with them, like seen somebody else get something really great around them. You know what I mean? There's just so many different things that can happen in life that can make somebody change like that. And if you're not with them long enough to experience that, you have no idea what you're getting yourself into. And so I have made a point to like slow down and be a lot more intentional about dating. And I've done a lot of work, getting into therapy, getting on mental health medication, and just like trying to heal myself so that this doesn't ever happen to me again. So appreciate y'all being along for the ride. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop a comment with your question. I'd be more than happy to answer. Again, I just want to say, like, this is not all his fault. I definitely played a part. I definitely did toxic things as well. There were a lot of times where I should have left. I should have let him leave. I should have recognized red flags. I should have put myself first. I should have put my children first. Love makes people stupid. It really does. Love makes people very, very dumb. And, I am grateful for the life experience because it has really helped me realize that it's okay to be alone in an apartment with your children as long as you're physically safe. I would rather me and all of my kids be in an apartment together and like struggling than to live in a big, beautiful house and have to walk on eggshells because we don't feel safe with the person that we share the home with, And then I also realized that like codependency caused a lot of these problems. Like, okay, let's say I wasn't codependent, right? And I could have made a clean break from him and just been like, you got to get out the second that I recognized a red flag, right? And I didn't marry him and spend years with him, okay? It would have ended a lot cleaner. And then what if, right, I wasn't codependent, and instead of like needing to get into a romantic relationship 4 or 5 months after I broke up with him, that I like genuinely spent like a year just getting to know myself, would he have reacted so badly? Would he have been so upset? Would he have done all of this crazy stuff that he goes on to do? Probably not, right? It would have given him time to heal and let go and move on. And so I have realized that while he is responsible for the choices that he made, that there are decisions that I could have made on my part that would have minimized the harm a lot. And I am aware of that now. And so I just want the takeaways to be, number one, believe every woman, whether she is your boyfriend's ex, whether she is your brother's girlfriend, whether she is, your stepmom. if a woman says a man hit her, she's probably telling the truth. There are those select few people who are like gonna slap a man in the face and then be like, oh my God, I can't believe he hit me back. There are people like that, right? But they're so small. They're outliers. It is not worth jeopardizing an entire family because you don't believe one person. If I had believed that girl and if I had listened to her, me and my children would have not experienced all of this trauma and all of this pain. I mean, it's just, it pisses me off so much to my core that I did not do that because it does not align with my views now. But it took this painful situation for me to develop those views. So that's the first thing. The second takeaway that I want to like people to think about from this is that, like, you know, if you're in recovery, people think just not doing drugs is it, right? Like, I'm just clean, okay, and that's all I got to do to be working on myself. Absolutely not. I have not used throughout this entire time, and I still made so many bad choices because I was not healed on the inside. And that's not okay, right? I should have been doing the work on myself so that these kind of things didn't happen, right? It doesn't just end with stopping using, right? We got to continuously work on ourselves. And then the last thing that I am going to say is that if you are a woman and you are in a position to where you can financially take care of yourself, do not invite a man in and live above your means, right? I felt trapped because I kept living above my means, getting accustomed to the lifestyle. I love being a homeowner. I love having a nice car. I love getting hair extensions, getting my lashes done and all of that stuff. And I didn't want to give up all of these like fancy things that I had because I grew up poor. So I stayed in a bad situation so I could be comfortable financially, right? I ended up doing it by myself anyways. He got high and lost all of his own stuff. He lost his job. He lost all of his money, everything. And I ended up having to pay for it all by myself anyways. I could have left on my own terms and done it differently. And I would have been so much safer. So stay with what you can afford on your own, unless you're really sure. I keep seeing this comment and I just want to explain to you guys. So there's this thing called arrest.org and I typed in his name and I looked it up and all he had was the stuff that he told me that he had, right? And so I was like, okay, he obviously is telling me the truth. It wasn't until my ex-boyfriend sent me that screenshot that I thought maybe there is something else. And I Googled him and I found that article. At that point, we were already in like a Facebook official relationship and had been dating for a couple of months. So I asked him about it, and him and everybody in his life tell me the same story. His friends, his family members, they all tell me the same story. All of their stuff lines up, and it seems like she's lying, she's making it up, blah, 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 blah. At this point, I'm in love, or so I think, and he shows me all these messages from so we got together in April of 2020. He shows me messages from January of 2020 where they're flirting with each other, and she is definitely not acting scared of him or anything like that, right? And so he's like, if I was so terrible to her, if I abused her so bad, why is she saying all this stuff to me? And so I believed him. It wasn't until years later that he hit me and then I was begging him to hang out with me that I realized she was telling the truth. And she had a trauma bond just like I did, right? She was literally addicted to the toxicity and the terrible relationship the same as I was. So that's the reason why I did that. Not my best moment. I definitely learned some lessons the hard way.